Ladies and gentlemen, and dear students, now I hand you over to General Balraj Singh Takhar and General K.J. Singh to give you an account of the 1971 war. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you all for your patience and perseverance to stay on for this presentation. I am also extremely grateful to Karmveer Sivya for inviting me to make this presentation to you all. Sangrur has provided a very large number of personnel to the armed forces, and a very large number have also sacrificed their lives for the nation. They had also won a very large number of gallantry awards. Sangrur is also important for me. After the 1965 war, this was my first peacetime station where I was posted. And in 1971, when the war clouds were on the horizon, we moved out on 15th of September 1971 to the war zone from Sangrur itself. We are a total of 3 units here: 1 artillery regiment, my regiment Pune Horse, and a small contingent of workshop unit. Before I actually embark upon the presentation, I want to say something about Pakistan as a state. Most of us think J&K is the core problem with Pakistan, for which 3 wars and 1 limited war has been fought since 1947. I behold that J&K is not the core problem. The core problem lies in the nature of the state of Pakistan. Whereas India has an army to protect its interests, Pakistan has a state, and Pakistan army has a state. It lords over every function of the state. It controls the state. Pakistan army has ruled for 32 years or 33 years, and balance 27 odd years they have ruled from the back seat, even if though there has been a democratically elected government. You will be amazed to know that Pakistan GDP, army GDP, is the highest in the world. Army controls practically everything from real estate to building of roads, canals, bridges, hotels, marriage palaces, you name it, they have a stake in it. That's the kind of army Pakistan has today. If you join army in Pakistan and you reasonably reach a reasonable kind of a rank structure, rank status, you are content for lifetime. You will never retire. You retire from the army and you have various other things to which you have got your stake in, and you carry on with that. I'll come to as to what is the prescription for lowering the tensions between India and Pakistan at a later stage. But needless to say at this stage that Pakistan army will never leave its hold on the government of Pakistan, whether it's the elected government or the Pakistan itself is directly ruling, army is ruling Pakistan.
ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ, ਆਰਮੀ 'ਚ ਕਈ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਨਰਲ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ, ਇਹ ਬੜੇ ਸਹਿਜ ਜਨਰਲ ਹੈਗੇ। ਸਹਿਜ ਕਿਉਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਮੈਂ, ਜਦ ਮੈਂ ਮੇਜਰ ਸੀਗਾ, ਇੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਬ੍ਰਿਗੇਡ ਮੇਜਰ ਸੀਗਾ ਮੈਂ ਪਟਿਆਲੇ 'ਚ, ਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰ ਗੇਮ ਕਰਨ ਮੈਂ ਚਲਾ ਗਿਆ ਮੇਰਠ, ਤੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਉਸ ਟਾਈਮ ਦੇ ਬ੍ਰਿਗੇਡੀਅਰ ਠੱਕਰ 14 ਇੰਡੀਆ ਪਾਵਰ ਬ੍ਰਿਗੇਡ ਦੇ ਕਮਾਂਡਰ ਸੀ, ਉਹ ਆਏ ਹੋਏ ਸੀ, ਤੇ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਪਲਾਨ ਬਣਾਉਣੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ, ਅਗਲੇ ਦਿਨ ਵੀ ਹੈਵ ਟੂ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੈਂਟ ਇਟ। ਉਹਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਟੈਸਟ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ, ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਬ੍ਰਿਗੇਡੀਅਰ ਜਿਹਨੇ ਜਾਂ ਜਨਰਲ ਨੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਜਾਣਾ ਹੈ, ਉਹਦਾ ਬਸ ਉਹ ਫਸਲ ਦਾ ਕਟਾਈ ਦਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਹੈ, ਉਹਨੇ ਫਸਲ ਦਿਖਾਣੀ ਹੈ ਬਣਾ ਕੇ। So we were on his team, so he briefed us. He said, this is the broad plan. And फिर ये चले गए गोल्फ खेडन, सहज है, फिर दिमाग बिल्कुल क्लियर हैगा। ते अगले दिन जड़ी दूजी टीमां सी, अगले दिन क्यों उस दिन राती उन्होंने सैशन चल रहे हैं, असी पूछ रहे भाई ब्रिगेडियर ठक्कर आएंगे कि नहीं आएंगे, उन्होंने कहा नहीं यार तुसी सारे जाओ सो जाओ, प्लान क्लियर हैगा, आप कल सवेरे डिस्कस कर लेंगे, फिर मैं प्रेजेंट कर देंगे। तो अगले दिन सवेरे भी असी इंतजार करते रहे कि छेती आ जाएंगे, असी इन्हों प्लान पहले दस देंगे। ब्रॉड प्लान तो इन्होंने ही दिता सी सानू, तो 10-15 मिनट पहले आए, इन्होंने साडा प्लान जिहड़ा सी डिटेल्स दित्तियां सी, समझ लित्तियां, तो फिर खड़ा होकर प्रेजेंट कर दिया, बिल्कुल उसी तरीके नाल जिस तरीके नाल असी बनाया सी। ते ये तुहाडे इलाके दे हैगे, मैं तो राजस्थान का रहने वाला, मैं तो श्री गंगानगर डिस्ट्रिक्ट का रहने वाला, जिथे कल्चर का कुछ लेना देना नहीं हैगा। खुशवंत सिंह जी ने लिखा भी हैगा कि ओनली कल्चर विच पीपल इन गंगानगर नो इज एग्रीकल्चर। ते साडे इलाके के लोग इत्थे आंदे सीगे, मतलब मेरे फादर भी महिंद्रा कॉलेज पटियाले पढ़े, तो इस पासे आके असी कल्चर इंबाइब करते थे। तो सानू बड़ा चंगा लग्या कि तुसी संगरूर जिहा जी थां ते, जिथे मैं बड़ा नौकरी की है, इत्थे ही असी पंजाब के हालात ठीक नहीं सीगे, कच्ची खनौरी, पक्की खनौरी, गुरु नानकपुरा, सुनाम, धूरी, मंडी अहमदगढ़, धनौला, पता नहीं कित्थे कित्थे जाके पेट्रोल की हुई है, घूमे इत्थे, पर तुसी इत्थे विरसे नूं भी संभाल रहे हो, कल्चर का भी ध्यान रख रहे हो, तो इस करके आपां नूं ताली बजानी चाहिए।
45 p.m. Pakistan launched preemptive airstrikes on forward Indian air bases. Srinagar, Avantipur, Pathankot, Uttaralai, Jodhpur, Ambala and Agra. India and Pakistan were once again at war, an incredible third time in less than 25 years. In a radio broadcast shortly before midnight, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi addressed the nation. Taking advantage of the full moon on the night of December 3rd, 1971, a second wave of Pakistan Air Force came bombing and strafing the Indian airfields. Both these attempts were so clumsy that not one Indian aircraft was lost on the ground.
The overall, on the Western Front, India had decided to adopt a defensive posture and a limited offensive to be carried out in order to ensure that Army Reserve North and Army Reserve South of the Pakistan Army do not cause any trouble for us. As far as East Pakistan is concerned, India had decided to launch a full-scale offensive to liberate East Pakistan and make it Bangladesh. In the 1970 elections that were held in Pakistan, that is East and West Pakistan, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, I'll call him Sheikh from now, had won the majority. However, he was not permitted to convene the National Assembly, as the power lay in West Pakistan. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman gave a speech at the famous race course in Takhar. In his speech, he had a 6-point program, and this was basically to articulate that East Pakistan is given enough powers to be self-contained in every respect. Iski sound फिर off हो गई है. Sound off. Arrangement of autonomy into East Pakistan was not acceptable to the military junta. General Yahya Khan, who was the president at that time, sent Takhar Khan to ensure that East Pakistan remains under check. General Takhar Khan unleashed a reign of terror in East Pakistan. Atrocities were committed. Destruction to property was carried out.
দুঃখ ভারাক্রান্ত মন নিয়ে আপনাদের সামনে হাজির হয়েছি। আপনারা সবই জানেন এবং বোঝেন আমরা আমাদের জীবন দিয়ে চেষ্টা করেছি, কিন্তু দুঃখের বিষয় আজ ঢাকা, চট্টগ্রাম, খুলনা, রাজশাহী, রংপুরে আমার ভাইয়ের রক্তে রাজপথ রঞ্জিত হয়েছে। আজ বাংলার মানুষ মুক্তি চায়, বাংলার মানুষ বাঁচতে চায়, বাংলার মানুষ তার আত্ম অধিকার চায়। কি অন্যায় করেছিলাম নির্বাচনের পরে বাংলাদেশের মানুষ সম্পূর্ণভাবে আমাকে আওয়ামী লীগকে ভোট দেন।
Against West Pakistan, and the birth of Mukti Bahini took place. All of you have heard about Mukti Bahini. More on Mukti Bahini from General K.J. Singh later. This was the liberation army raised from the remnants of Bengali resistance of Bangladesh Liberation War. It had Zulu, Kilo forces and Sierra forces under it. It had roughly 8 battalion strength, an artillery regiment, a naval arm for tackling the ships of West Pakistan, and approximate strength of 16,000. Mukti Bahini's tasks were to guide the Indian troops in East Pakistan, carry out operations in Salda Nadi, Sylhet and Chittagong, provide intelligence to the Indian Army, act as frogmen to attack the harbors and the ships at the ports in West Pakistan, isolate Pakistan units before they were attacked by the Indian forces, and secure helipads and landing zones for helicopter operations in East Pakistan. Indian Prime Minister deliberated on the conditions that are obtaining East Pakistan and carried out certain diplomatic and political measures. In that, she sent diplomats, and she herself and her foreign minister Sardar Swaran Singh went to USA, USSR, UK and the European countries to sensitize them as to the atrocities being committed on the citizens of East Pakistan, and also the influx of refugees that are coming into India. At one point of time, roughly 60,000 people were coming as refugees into India. It was totally unmanageable for the Indian government to take care of refugees at such a strength.
Greater discipline by the Pakistan Army. Can you secure this first step?
When Hitler was on the rampage, why didn't you say let's keep quiet and let's have peace in Germany, let the Jews die, or let Belgium die, let France die? Would you say that was quiet?
But how do you propose to bring about these first steps to control the exodus of armies operating in East Pakistan?
Does that mean we allow a massacre to continue? What happened first? How many people were killed according to your correspondence of British newspapers? of American newspapers, of French newspapers, Canadian newspapers, Arabian newspapers.
The timing of attack in East Pakistan was deliberately selected as the month of December 1971. And the next video clip, which is an enacted CCS meeting, Cabinet Committee on Security meeting, chaired by the Prime Minister, will tell you as to what were the reasons for selection of December 1971 as the month in which the attack should be launched in East Pakistan.
आप मुझसे क्या चाहती हैं?
मैं चाहती हूँ हमारी आर्मी ईस्ट पाकिस्तान में दाखिल हो।
आप इसका मतलब जानती हैं? It's war, जंग।
जंग हो तो हो, मुझे इसकी परवाह नहीं। I don't mind if it is war.
आज 25 अप्रैल है। हिमालय के सारे रास्ते खुल गए। अगर चीनियों ने हमें अल्टीमेटम दे दिया, तो हमें पाकिस्तान और चीन दोनों से लड़ाई करनी पड़ेगी।
आपको लगता है कि चाइना अल्टीमेटम देगा हमें?
आप फॉरेन मिनिस्टर हैं, आप मुझे बताइए। वन लास्ट थिंग, आर्मर्ड डिवीजन में सिर्फ 13 टैंक काम कर रहे हैं।
सैम, सिर्फ 13 टैंक ही क्यों?
क्योंकि आप फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर हैं। पिछले 1-1.5 साल से मरम्मत के लिए मैं पैसे मांगू और आप कह रहे हैं कि पैसे नहीं। इसीलिए मैडम, अप्रैल का महीना है और जब तक हम लड़ाई के लिए तैयार होंगे तब तक ईस्ट पाकिस्तान में मॉनसून आ चुका होगा और वहां when it rains, it does not rain, it pours। नदियां समुद्र बन जाती है, चारों तरफ पानी ही पानी, और ऐसे में हम सड़कों तक ही सीमित रह जाएंगे। हमारी एयरफोर्स भी हमारी मदद नहीं कर पाएगी। और अगर अब भी आप चाहती है कि हमारी फौज ईस्ट पाकिस्तान में दाखिल हो, तो मैं आपको गारंटी दे सकता हूं 100% हार की।
कैबिनेट 4 बजे फिर मिलेगी। चीफ, आप रुकिए, मुझे आपसे कुछ बात करनी है।
मैडम प्रधानमंत्री, इससे पहले कि आप कुछ कहे, मैं मानसिक और शारीरिक सेहत के आधार पर अपना इस्तीफा दे सकता हूं।
आप बैठिए सर।
The forces deployment in East Pakistan, that is Pakistan forces. There were roughly 9 infantry brigades of Pakistan Army deployed in East Pakistan. They were mainly concentrated at Bogra, Ashuganj, Komila, Dhaka and Jessore. Defenses were based on rivers and major townships. Force levels India. India had selected 4 thrust lines to go into general area of Dhaka. In the southwest was 2 corps commanded by Lieutenant General T.N. Rana, which had 2 infantry divisions. In the northwest was 33 corps commanded by Lieutenant General Thapan, which had 2 infantry divisions and 2 brigades. In the center was 1 communication zone, which had 1 infantry brigade and some ad hoc troops. And on the east was 4 corps commanded by Lieutenant General Sagat Singh, which had 3 infantry divisions. In addition to that, 9 para-commando battalion was also deployed, which carried out heli-borne operations to tackle Dhaka. As far as the eastern side is concerned, operations on all the fronts commenced on 3rd of December. By 14th of December, major towns on the rivers had been isolated, recaptured, and the enemy had withdrawn from those places. Pakistan had never anticipated that Dhaka would be tackled. Dhaka would be attacked by Indian Army. However, 4 Corps and 1-1 communication zone along with 9 paras attacked or surrounded Dhaka, and by that time, ceasefire was declared. The surrender of Pakistan Army took place. There were some remnants of Pakistan Army which actually managed to infiltrate and go by sea routes back to Pakistan.
At Khulna, a brigade of the Pakistan Army, which had held out until the ceasefire, finally surrendered to Major General Dalbir Singh, GOC 9 Mountain Division. Thus, the Indian Armed Forces brought the dictators to their knees and the Bengalis to freedom.
Good evening. Government forces in East Pakistan surrendered today to India, bringing to an end 13 days of bitter fighting on that front. The end came quickly at a racetrack in Dhaka. There, General Niazi gave up the Pakistani armed forces in the east to Indian General Singh Arora. Niazi stripped off his epaulets and touched his forehead to Arora's, signifying subservience. There was rejoicing in the streets of Dhaka. In New Delhi, a cheering, table-thumping parliament heard Indian Prime Minister Gandhi proclaim East Pakistan a free country. She called it Bangladesh, the Bengal nation. Mrs. Gandhi also ordered a unilateral ceasefire in the West beginning tomorrow. But Pakistan's President Yahya Khan, in a nationwide broadcast, urged his people to be patient and said, "We will continue fighting, not only in the front lines, but in the fields, factories, and homes."
Now to West Pakistan. A brief on West Pakistan battles that took place.
Brigadier Bagheera Siddiqui, what he felt about it.
Battlefields in J&K were divided into 6 sectors. On the eastern side was the Ladakh sector, center was Kargil sector, west was Kashmir Valley sector, Punch Rajouri sector, Shams Jordian sector, and Jammu sector. I will not give details of this. Suffice to say, except in Shams Jordian sector, where Pakistan made a dent into the Indian defense locations, and they came up to the river Munawwar Tavi and Mandiala Bridge. In all other sectors, our forces made 10 to 20 kilometers ingress into the enemy territory and captured the heights. As far as terrain is concerned, plains of J&K and Punjab are divided into the following corridors as flashed on the viewfoil. Jhelum Chenab corridor, Chenab Ravi corridor, and Ravi Satluj corridor. The entire area extends from Chenab River to Suleiman Ki headworks. It's very well developed and very good for agriculture. There are a number of important towns and cities in this area, and politically they are all sensitive. Important river corridors I've already highlighted. Enclaves. There are 3 important enclaves for which the battles were fought. That is Kasawal enclave, which is also known as Dera Baba enclave, Husainwala enclave, and Suleiman Ki headworks. They were well defended by Pakistan and by the Indians. Task of Western Command was prevent any enemy ingress into Indian territory of J&K, defend Punjab, and launch a limited offensive into the Western Pakistan, timed with offensive in the east. Areas indicated are north of Chenab River with 10 Infantry Division, south of Chenab River with 26 Infantry Division, and north and south of Puj River, 1 corps offensive, which was the main force which went into West Pakistan. Launch Army Headquarters Reserve, which comprised of 1 Armored Division and 1 Infantry Division on certain conditions, depending on the progress of battles on other fronts. Western Theatre. We had 2 commands that time. The Northern Command didn't exist. The Western Command extended from Leh to Fazilka, and the Southern Command extended from Sri Ganganagar right down to Kutch in Gujarat. As far as Pakistan is concerned, after the 1960 war, they created 7 new infantry divisions because the ratios were totally lopsided in the 65 war. Having learned from the 65 war, they had additional troops raised. And 2 new corps headquarters were raised, that is 2 corps and 4 corps headquarters. Pakistani army was organized as is shown on the view foil. They had adequate number of forces and 2 armored divisions and 2 independent armored brigades. 14, 9 and 16 infantry division were deployed in Bangladesh out of this force. Basically, the dispositions in West Pakistan were based on Marib, Peshawar, Khariyan, Sialkot, Lahore and Multan.
To this end, the army had drawn up 3 primary offensive missions: an advance in the direction of Sialkot by 26th Division, a major thrust by 1 corps to capture the Shakargarh Bulge between North Punjab and South Jammu and Kashmir, and a strike across the desert to cut off the rail link between Pakistan's Punjab and Sindh provinces.
As I mentioned earlier, 1 corps was the main offensive force which was launched into West Pakistan to carry out limited offensive. Let's see what are the tasks given to 1 corps. Defensive operations between Eknala in the north and Thakurpur in the south. Offensive operations to be launched from Samba area into the Shakargarh Bulge. Operations commenced on night 5th, 6th by 54 Infantry Division and 39 Infantry Division. 54 Infantry Division captured the area right up to the road Zafarwal, Shakargarh. 36 Infantry Division was launched on night 7th, 8th. Its initial objective was Noorkot, subsequently it was switched on to Shakargarh. At the time of ceasefire, 36 Infantry Division had invested Shakargarh but had not captured it. Now the Battle of Basanta.
Our line of communication from Pathankot to Jammu is within 12 kilometers of the international border. Opposite this, in the Zafarwal-Narowal area and on to Kasur, Pakistan had constructed heavy concrete fortifications and laid extensive minefields. The Pakistan 8th Division, comprising 4 brigades, with an armoured brigade of 4 regiments, were defending the area. In addition, Pakistan had its 6 armoured divisions, less an armoured brigade, and some elements of 17 Pakistan divisions in reserve for a counter-attack. When it was clear that Pakistan was not likely to do anything in Shakargarh, 1 Indian corps was launched into the attack on the night of the 5th, 6th December. The following night, the eastern thrust went into action. By the 15th of December, delayed by heavy obstacles, the northern thrust reached the line of the river Basanta and the lateral road from Zafarwal to Shakargarh. The eastern thrust reached the line of the river Basanta bridge on the 12th of December. Our attempts to capture Shakargarh failed. By the 16th of December, a bridgehead had been established west of the river Basanta, threatening Zafarwal. By the time of the ceasefire, 1 Indian corps had advanced 11 kilometers all along its front, closely supported by the IAF, and captured 300 kilometers of densely populated and fertile area.
The Battle of Basanta was fought by 47 Infantry Brigade and the Pune Horse. 16 Madras established the bridgehead on night at 21:45 on 15th of December. 3rd Grenadiers was launched in the south, and they captured the bridgehead at 0300 hours on 16th of December. That's the next night. On the first night itself, Poona Horse had been inducted into the bridgehead. There were several counterattacks launched by the enemy in the general area of Lalial, Jirpal, Sarachak, Lohal, and Badapet. All these counterattacks were repulsed. It's pertinent to mention here that young Lieutenant, 2nd Lieutenant Khetapal, who destroyed 4 tanks after his own tank was hit, was awarded Paramveer Chakra. Then Major Hushar Singh, later on Brigadier Hushar Singh, for his gallant action of repulsing the counterattacks, was awarded also Paramveer Chakra. He belonged to 3rd Grenadiers.
It was also in this theatre of operations that one young man in the Indian Army showed courage beyond words. 2nd Lieutenant Arun Khetarpal, Poona Horse, was ordered to deploy his tanks in defense of Indian infantrymen near the Basantar Bridge. In doing so, Khetarpal first took on one Pakistani stronghold after another, overrunning enemy defenses and destroying Pakistani recoilless guns. During the attack, the commander of Khetarpal's 2nd tank was destroyed, but the young lieutenant decided to carry on, this time facing off against an entire squadron of Pakistani tanks with only 3 of his own. Khetarpal's tank was hit and he was ordered to abandon his tank. Instead, he refused, eventually being killed, but not before personally knocking out 4 Pakistani tanks. Khetarpal won the Paramveer.
I had mentioned earlier that Poona Horse moved into the battle zone from Sangrur. Arun Khetarpal, who just 21 years of age, was awarded the Paramveer Chakra in the Battle of Basantar. It's also pertinent to mention that Poona Horse also got PVC in 65 war. That was awarded to Colonel Tarapur, Adi Tarapur. The leadership of General Hanuj Singh was totally outstanding. It is because of grit, determination and good leadership that Poona Horse did well. On 17th morning, ceasefire was declared. I will now briefly cover the Battle of Longewal. Longewal is just on the border and is at a relatively higher ground than the other places. It is all in the sandy desert. It only had 1 BSF post earlier, but 23 Punjab later on built it up to a company. Pakistan's infantry and armor launched assaults on Longewal and did not manage to capture it. Brigadier Chandpuri was later on awarded Mahavir Chakra for the Battle of Longewal.
Bangladesh, if we look at it in the cultural context, अगर हम सभ्याचार और सभ्यता के लिहाज से इसको देखें, क्योंकि we are in a cultural festival also, then I would like to bring to your notice one fact, that this is a war in which culture, the language, Bangla language, won. Because a nation, a group of people felt that you can't create an artificial country separated by thousands of kilometers with two different languages, one based on Punjabi, Urdu, Pushtu and maybe Sindhi, and on one side you have Bangla, two different cultures. So religion is not enough to bind them. So it is created a kind of it is, in my thinking, reinforced the secular concept of this subcontinent. You know, today Bangladesh is again thinking, in between Bangladesh had gone astray. They started over-Islamizing their country. Today they are thinking of dropping from their nation's title Islamic word, and they are tending to go towards the secularism. So it's a great concept which has to be nurtured. When I visited Bangladesh, I realized two things about Bangladesh which I'd like to share with you all. The first thing was that we do not give enough importance to Mukti Bahini. Mukti Bahini कोई organized force नहीं सी, वो बंदे सी जिन्होंने रिवोल्ट करके पाकिस्तान आर्मी तो अपनी एक फौज तैयार की थी। पाकिस्तान आर्मी के अंदर 5 यूनिटां होंदियां सी ईस्ट बंगाल राइफल्स की। So out of them they walked out and they started forming Mujib Bahini, Sangram Parishad. Then they organized themselves into Mukti Bahini. And Mukti Bahini, like what Jan Takhar also brought out, had 3 wings. It had an army component, a naval component, and even an air force component. The army component was led by Colonel Osmani, who was the chief of that entire force. He had under him people like Major Ziaur Rahman, who initially had become self-appointed chief of this force. And Ziaur Rahman later became the president of Bangladesh also. Colonel Osmani became a very senior minister. And then these people were divided into various sectors. They were trained, guided by our intelligence agencies. And one general who was from Punjab, General Singh, who was an expert in these kind of operations, he guided them. But thereafter he misused that knowledge. Unfortunately, you all would have heard about it. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਸੁਣਿਆ ਹੋਵੇਗਾ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਇਹ ਲੱਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰਮੋਸ਼ਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਗਲਤ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਜੁੜ ਗਏ। In the naval component, they even had 2 ships. They had MV Polish and they had a second ship with them, and they had a 40mm cannon also with them. So a lot of times these ships took part and carried out strafing. And then they also set up an air component which was based at Dimapur. Now this air component, this mini air force of Bangladesh had a Dakota, an Otter, and it had an Alouette helicopter. Basically for communication and transportation, but to give them that feeling towards the end, we even made these forces take part in combat missions. And if you go to Chittagong airport, the airport is named after Bir Pratik Shamshur, who was an Air Force person who had gone to this force. So Mukti Bahini needs to be nurtured. They call themselves as Mukti Jodhas. When I was in some responsible position, I ensured that a book is written by them, by Indians, in clause. We held a seminar, and whenever we get a chance, it is always good to encourage, because they are going to be part of Bangladesh's hierarchy. And if India has to retain links with Bangladesh, it is good to build up Mukti Bahini and their role. While if you dispassionately analyze their role, they were after all what? Ragtag combination. You can't expect them to perform like Indian Army. But they did their bit, and we must acknowledge this. The second issue, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਉੱਤੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗੀ, ਉਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਮੇਰੀ ਰੈਜੀਮੈਂਟ ਵੀ ਇਨਵੋਲਡ ਸੀਗੀ। ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਬੰਗਲਾਦੇਸ਼ ਗਏ ਸੀ, ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੁਰੂ ਤੇਗ ਬਹਾਦਰ ਵੀ ਗਏ ਸੀ, ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਵੀ ਬਣਾਏ। तो Guru Nanak Dev Ji went to Sylhet. There is a Gurdwara in Sylhet. There is a Gurdwara in Dhaka, Gurdwara Nanak Shahi. There is a Gurdwara in Chittagong, set up by Guru Nanak Dev Ji, called as Gurdwara Chowk Bazaar. I visited them. My regiment, during the Pakistani rule, these Gurdwaras were closed. They were not allowed to flourish. My regiment was the only armored component which reached Dhaka in 1971, and Gurdwaras were restored. Guru Tegh Bahadur jad utthe gaye, to unhone Dhaka ch ek aur Gurdwara banaya jida naam si Gurdwara Sangat Tola. Fir oh bhi Chittagong gaye. Is to ilawa Maiman Singh vich bhi Gurdware hege, and इन्हां गुरुद्वारियां दा हुण रख रखाव दोबारा किया जा रहा है. दे आर बीइंग लुक्ड आफ्टर. पटना साहब का जिहड़ा तख्त हैगा वो इन्हां गुरुद्वारियां दा मैनेजमेंट करवांदा है. देयर इज संत साहब फ्रॉम फरीदकोट हु इज आल्सो इन्वॉल्वड इन दैट. उत्थे भी पॉलिटिक्स चलती है. जिहड़ी चीज़ इत्थे गुरुद्वारियां चलती है उत्थे भी चल रही है. उसी करके उहदा डेवलपमेंट नहीं हो पा रही. मैं भी थोड़ी इस प्रोसेस इन्वॉल्व होया सीगा, ते हाले भी मैं इंटरेस्ट लेंदा, पर ज़्यादा इंटरेस्ट इस करके नहीं लेंदा क्योंकि गुरुद्वारियां दी पॉलिटिक्स बहुत खराब है, उहदे तो फसना नहीं चाहिए. बट आई वर्क थ्रू द हाई कमीशन बिकॉज माई रेजिमेंट इज बीन पार्ट ऑफ दिस. एंड रिसेंटली असी उत्थे एक म्यूजियम भी इस्टैब्लिश हो रहा है. If you all get a chance to go to Bangladesh, try and visit these Gurdwaras. Bangladesh is Sikh संगत बहुत घट है, बहुत थोड़ी है. उत्थे ज़्यादातर लोग कबीर पंथी हैं. साढ़े विच जिहड़े शायद अगली पेशकश करने वाले हैं, he is going to recite Kabir only. There, most of the congregation is Kabir panthis. They come to that Gurdwara, and they sort of listen to, they also follow Sikhism in a way. So I wanted to keep these 2-3 thoughts for sharing with you. Once again from my side I'd like to thank इतने संगरूर में बहुत सारे नॉन कल्चरल काम भी किए हुए हैं. एक कल्चरल काम करके भी ते विरसे नूं थोड़ा संजोने भी बहुत चंगा लग्या. बहुत it's been a very sort of enjoyable kind of an outing, and I am grateful to General Takhar for having called me here. And VP Singh, he is a poet in army, so he is the Sutradhar. He forced me to come here. Thank you everybody, and for your patience to listen to us. Thank you.
And sharing his thoughts with us. Just to tell you, KJ Singh was in Mao till this morning. He came back from Mao and he straightway traveled to this place to share his thoughts with us. Please give him a big hand.